Hello, Make Idaho Better followers. Check out my new Make Idaho Better hat. You can buy one of these, but only if you share Make Idaho Better surveys and get responses, because that's how I'll know. Anyway, it's time for another analysis post in video. So we're going to talk about Idaho education. It's a big topic. A lot of people are talking about it. It's the biggest part of Idaho's state budget, so it's super important. But you know the drill, maybe. I always start explaining what Make Idaho Better is, if you don't know that already. So let's dive in. Okie dokie. Make Idaho Better is the easiest way to be a part of state and local solutions. What do I mean by that? Well, there's a lot of ways you can kind of contribute to making things better where you live. You can vote, you can go to city council meetings, you can call your legislature or somebody about things. But those things are often not that easy to do. They take a lot of time. You might have to plan for it. And they're not really about involving you in the problem-solving process as much as, okay, we hear you, let's address what you said. Not like, I want to understand your point of view deeply and act based on that, and then like other people's views exact like that. People don't use data for this type of stuff usually, not often anyway. So I've tried to make it the easiest way for you to do that through surveys, public results and analysis, and recorded leader interviews, helping you make your voice heard and make a difference, and then helping leaders help you, making it easier for them to know what people think so they can act on it. If you like the sound of that, click the Do Your Part button. It'll take you to our email list. If you sign up there, that's how you'll get the surveys. Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about Idaho education. For all of our surveys, there's a survey page, and you can see all the surveys up here in the navigation bar. But this one is about education. You can see the exact way all the questions were phrased. You can see a copy of the survey there. You can check out the overall results. Looks like this. You can see how everybody answered all the different questions. So that's all public, and then the analysis is going to be linked here in a second. But the analysis is where I kind of go beyond this overall view and slice it, break it down, and explain kind of what I think the story is. So here it is. I'm not going to go into my main takeaways because then it's not a good build-up, giving you the punchline right away. You can read them, so if you're watching this video, maybe you want more of the details. So we'll come back to that. So here's the table of contents. Here's me explaining how analysis works. I already did that. The link to the survey page that we just looked at, and we'll start with the sample demographics. So it's always important whenever you're looking at survey results to get a sense of who were the people that answered the survey. Because that helps you kind of guard against, is this like a broad representation of people? Did they hear a lot of different viewpoints? Or is this just like a small niche group that maybe has strong opinions, but that's different than like a lot of Idahoans? So I always show this at the beginning. So gender, age, and county are demographics I collect on every survey. And then this is a survey specific one. So we heard from quite a bit more women than men. I don't know why that is. There's some topics where we get equal representation or participation from men and women, and there's some where it's just men seem way less interested in participating than women. This is one. Animal abuse was another one. So I don't know. Women care more about some things, maybe. Age, we're kind of hearing from every kind of age range, with more kind of on the 20, like the biggest groups being in the 20 to 40s. Counties, heard from a lot of counties, I think maybe about half, maybe more than half of them. But the biggest one being Ada County, which is the most populated with Boise in it. And then we've heard from about twice as many parents compared to non-parents on this topic. So that's all good to keep in mind as you're checking out the rest of this analysis. Okay, so we know that there's a lot of parents, but I asked this question. This is how I calculated that, but you can see from this kind of how many kids parents have, whether it's one, two, three, four, or more than four. Two is the most common. We've got quite a bit that's like more than that. Okay, but I also wanted to know, do parents have kids in different school levels? Because like maybe they have kids, but they've already gone through the system, they're adults now, or they're too young to be in the system. So I wanted to get a sense of, do we have people with kids in different school levels? So I checked that here. So the green is people said yes, blue is no. The biggest one we had people, school level people had kids in, was elementary school. The smallest was preschool. That's not that surprising to me because there's not that many publicly funded options for preschool in Idaho, and lots of people can't afford private options for that. So, but we still got a pretty good representation of that. And then I was curious in this chart to see like who has kids in multiple levels of school. So these are parents. So this is only parents, but about 25% don't have any kids in the school levels right now. The biggest group was have that kid or kids in one level, but some had two, three, four. We even had somebody that had a kid in every level. That sounds like a headache to me. Okay, other context. This is a really common question to ask. What is the education level of the survey respondents? And that could be interesting context, and I do kind of slice by this later on. So less than high school degree or equivalent, some college but no degree, associates, bachelor's, or graduate. We're hearing from a lot of educated people here. This is not, I don't think, this isn't representative of Idaho as a whole. I think typically Idaho's go on rate is like 42% currently, if I understand it right. And that means the amount of high school kids that then go on to continue their education after, like I think within a few years after high school. But anyway, we heard from a lot of people with bachelor's degree and graduate degrees, and a few from other groups, obviously. And then I sliced that by whether or not you're a parent, not a parent, yes, a parent, to see kind of proportionally if people with kids had less education or vice versa. Not really. Pretty much the same distribution on both of them, which I thought was kind of interesting. Okay, we've done some demographics. Now let's get into some opinion questions. First one being, are there high quality schools where you live? Not necessarily asking, is the school that you have kids in high quality? Because again, Make Idaho Better surveys are kind of designed so that anyone can answer them. So even if you aren't in a school, your kids aren't in a school, like, do you believe there's high quality schools where you live? And that could be down the street or in your county. There's people that live in urban and rural and suburban kind of environments that answer these surveys. So the biggest answer was yes. Yes, absolutely was the next biggest. Putting these two together, we're looking at about 60% positive. Yeah, there are high quality schools. On the other hand, we're looking at about 20% that said no. So mostly positive, about 3 times as many people saying, yeah, there are high quality schools than people saying no. And then there's some that are like, I don't know. Either I don't know, or they're like, yeah, not really good, not really bad. So I was excited to do a map view this survey. I hadn't really been doing map views, so I'm going to do this more often now. So anyway, what we have here is I converted that to answer that question, are there high quality schools where you live, into numbers, and then I use that to average. So yes, absolutely, got a 4, yes, got a 3, etc. And then I average those for the county. And then I basically, the more green is the more like positive about the quality of the schools where you live. And then the less green, the least kind of positive you are. Now, I put this over here on the right side. This blue chart is how many responses we got from each county. So this is a warning on like when we're kind of on solid ground with the amount of people we've heard from and when we're not. So like Bonneville County, kind of a light green here. So like somewhat positive. We heard from 27 people on that. So maybe we have some, like, we think that's maybe believable. Owyhee County, is very green, very positive. But we only heard from one person. So, maybe if we heard from 27 people, that would be more believable or closer to the truth. For Ada County, green, also, not the darkest green though, we heard from 207 people. So maybe that is close-ish to the truth. So anyway, this is a kind of a resource, how people feel about like local schools quality. The next question is, what about the state overall? This is a totally different story to me. The most popular response was low quality. And if you add up low quality to low quality or very low quality, you're looking at 50% of people answered that way compared to about 15% that said high or very high quality. This is the other way. So we were seeing something positive, but this seems largely negative. And I'm guessing that has to do with like Idaho's placement in some of these like national rankings that says like Idaho is one of the worst. And maybe that's colored people's opinions. For instance, like I just Googled a bunch of like lists about kind of ranking Idaho's education quality. I found a bunch of different stuff. Like here's one here that says we're 47. This one says 30 and this one says 22. So looks like they all have a lot of their different ways of ranking, and some we look pretty good, some we look really bad. But it seems like people have this perception that the state as a whole is pretty bad. So then, same view we looked at before, kind of locally, how quality is the local education, and then what people think about the quality of the state education system as a whole. And check this out. It's on the left here. It's like at least half of these are green, like positive views in their county. Over here, it's like they're pretty much all not green. It means they're all pretty much thinking that the quality is worse in the state than it is locally. Even the places that like, Lemhi here is yellow. It's not green. So maybe they think that the people that answered there don't think there's good quality. Not a whole lot better for the state as a whole. So I'm like, what is going on here? So I wanted to dig deeper into that, and I actually just made a table here. It's not that pretty, but it shows on a county level how many responses we got for each of them, what the kind of local quality rating was that I created from those questions, and then what the system quality rating was I put together, and the difference. On these top 20-ish counties that we got responses from, they are all worse. The averages for the perception of the state quality compared to the local is worse. So that's kind of weird to me, right? This is like opposite of like the grass is greener on the other side mentality, right? People are usually assuming that things are better, other people have things better than they have it. This is the opposite. And they can't all be right? If everybody thinks my local schools are better than the state schools on average, then they can't all be right, because that's like that research showing that everybody thinks that they're better than average. Some of them are wrong. A lot of them are wrong. So to me, this is like begs the question: is this a PR problem? People are assuming and state is worse than their local almost across the board. So it looks like maybe something's off. Okay. Let's come back to a context question here. I wanted to get a sense of so I know how people think about quality, but I wanted to get a sense of how important they think this topic is compared to other ones. And education, this weighted average chart shows that education was considered the most important topic out of these other ones of state issues, which isn't surprising. These are a bunch of people that felt strongly enough to want to participate in an optional survey about this topic. So there's probably some bias here. However, academic, scientific research with representative sampling, like the Boise State School of Public Service, Idaho Public Policy survey, shows also with that education is considered the top issue. So it matches on that level. Next up was healthcare, then affordable housing, and the last was traffic and parking. Okay, let's break it down. What about parents versus non-parents? I would guess that parents care more about education because it's their kids versus people that don't have kids might care less. Not really. Pretty much neck and neck here, the weighted average of how people ranked this. The only kind of difference here that I saw worth mentioning maybe is the difference in drugs here. And it's pretty slight. It's still on average people's fit number 5 out of 6, but parents kind of weighted that a little heavier than non-parents did, drug enforcement. I'm maybe guessing that might be related to a parental instinct, not wanting your kids to get exposed to this stuff. But anyway, yeah, on education, no difference. Okay, let's look at age. I was curious if younger people, rank these issues differently than older people. Again, not really. Look at this. They're all kind of up there. Every group had education as number 1 on average, weighted average. I think the only thing that surprised me in here, besides the fact that pretty much everybody's on the same page, is this healthcare thing. It looks like as you get older, you rank healthcare higher and higher. 40s, then from 40s to 50s to 60s to 70 plus, it's becoming a bigger deal. Makes sense. You've got probably more direct healthcare needs as you get older. Okay, now we're going to go into another perception question. Do you think most kids should continue their education after high school? This is a little vague because there's these go on campaigns in Idaho that are everybody should go on. And there's some confusion pretty much indicated through the comments that people think that means that everybody needs to go to college, but maybe trade schools or apprenticeships or something or other might be a better fit for a lot of students. So people weren't so sure that everybody needs to go to college. But from this, it looks like pretty much everybody agrees that most people, not everybody, but the most people said that most people should continue their education. So whether that's college or not specified. So that looks like about 75% saying yes, and then only 5% saying no. Got a fairly decent group here, 20% saying maybe most kids should continue their education. This to me looks like, okay, yeah, most people are saying yeah. If I wanted to break that down by parent or not, again, no difference, which I thought was pretty interesting. Let's do it by age group again. Standout. This is not this is a little noisier than the last thing, but I didn't see the only thing that really stuck out to me is maybe people in their 60s or 70 plus are a little less, the no proportion on those groups was a little bit higher. But then on the other hand, the 60s group, they were the highest proportion of yes, absolutely. So maybe some of these older folks are a little more polarized, but most people are in this, yes, most should go on, continue. So next I wanted to look at like by the respondents' level of education. So if you didn't continue your education in a traditional education sense, because this doesn't have to do with trade schools and stuff, do you think people should continue their education or not? So standouts here, there's a spike here and there's a spike here from the less than high school degree and high school degree or equivalent. Now, we didn't hear from a lot of people in that demographic, so I don't want to draw conclusions from this, but perhaps if you didn't go to college in some way, shape, or form, you're less kind of sure or that people should continue their education. Like this maybe category, this no category for this light green, just high school equivalent is higher. About twice as many people said only maybe most kids should continue. So maybe there's something there. Okay, another question about going on. Do people earn more if they continue their education? Now, I know that there's research that says this, but I was curious what our respondents would say to this. Like, I believe much more earnings from this, but I was curious what other people said. So this was like, almost everybody agreed more on this. So this was 85% said more or much more. Like 1 to 2% said less, and then verging on 10% said about the same. So I will note that I didn't ask about your overall financial well-being, because even if you earn more from continuing your education, you may have taken on some debt, maybe quite a bit of debt. So who knows, maybe you're net negative financially, but certainly earning more. I would hope people are net negative positive, and I believe they are for the most part. Some people come out of college with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, which is insane. Okay, let's go back to that view that was interesting a second ago. The highest level of education attained, what you think about this question. Again, I think the standout to me here is the less than, well, not really this less than high school degree. This yellow doesn't seem super different. I think it's this light green one again, high school degree or equivalent. Got a big spike here on about the same. So it's like 2 or 3 times as much as the other groups on saying you earn about the same. So I think these people either don't know about the research saying that you do earn more, or they don't buy it. That's my take. Okay. It's kind of a tactical question, that I think is helpful to leaders that are trying to share information about Idaho education and kind of what's happening, what they're trying, what's working, what's not, and how people can get involved. How do you get your information? So weighted average says people get it online the most. And second most, word of mouth, like from potentially friends or teachers or something. Email's a big one. I was curious about that. So the weighted average is kind of okay. It shows what got the most, but it doesn't show you those frequency bands. So that's what I wanted to see here. So this dark greens is like what percentage for each category consumes information daily versus this screen is weekly, this screen is monthly, less than monthly, and never. So we can see the proportions here for these different things. Not a huge standout for me here. I think this is interesting. I like to see this, but I don't see anything here that surprises me. Maybe television should be more. I'm guessing these are all, I'm not surprised that the online is big. These are people that are taking an online survey, so they're probably more online prioritizing than the average Idahoan. So for the average Idahoan, I would guess television would be higher. This never segment, never getting consuming information about Idaho education via TV would be smaller if we got heard from more people. Now we can look at this from parents versus not parents and see the difference. Parents are getting more emails. So like about half as many of them say they never get information via email. That's probably they're getting emails from their schools, the school district, bulletins, newsletters, that sort of thing. Yeah, nothing else really stands out to me on that. Okay, last question. Are parent perspectives valuable? This was actually one thing that I was really interested to know about from this survey, because I had an assumption that people think parent perspectives are really valuable, but there's not a lot of data out there from parents. There's a lot out there about students' performance, about schools' performance, but like not really a ton about parent perspectives. So I was happy to see overwhelmingly yes. 85% yes. Less than 5% no, and 15 somewhat valuable. So I'm happy to hear that. And then I wanted to look at like parents versus not parents. Go figure. Parents think that their perspectives are extremely valuable, a little bit more than non-parents do. But non-parents still think that these perspectives are really valuable. And this is confirming my idea, which is leading me to focus on this sort of a thing. This is a new site, IdahoLearns.com, that I'm starting. It's a Make Idaho Better project that's focused on Idaho education. Make Idaho Better does broad topics, all kinds of topics. We'll jump from one to another and kind of add insights to these different things. But Idaho Learns is going to stay on education topics. It's going to have a variety of them within that kind of subject area, but they're going to be focused on that. And it's going to be primarily about getting parents' perspectives out there for other parents to learn, especially in their same school district. I think that would be really helpful. But also administrators, teachers and administrators that I think would benefit from knowing what a big group of parents are thinking, not just kind of like the noisy, strongly opinion ones that they're hearing from on the phone or in their office or something like that. So I started this, so that's interesting. You should sign up. And now I want to highlight the comments. I'm not going to go into these because they're long, but they're really good. I always learn a ton, and there's stuff in here that surprised me and didn't surprise me, and like a lot of them are personal, and the way people phrase things was like really insightful, I thought. There's a word cloud here showing kind of what gets too much attention, and then people's articulation of what gets too much attention. And then we've got what doesn't get enough attention, the word cloud, and then people's descriptions. So I think this is at least half the value of our surveys. This is really worth checking out. Don't miss it. And then, here's our gift for this topic. Cute little, is this a gerbil? Some kind of rodent that's cute and school themed. But as with any of our surveys and analysis, if you think that it's off, you don't buy it, doesn't make sense, you think that that's not really what Idahoans think, you might be right. And maybe we didn't hear from enough variety. Okay, this is distracting me. You might be right. Maybe we're not hearing from enough different points of view. If that's true, and that you're one of those people that you feel like isn't represented well enough by this, please join us and participate. The more responses we get, the more insightful the findings, the bigger the positive impact. So I want to hear from you if you think that, and I want to hear from the people that you think aren't being represented. So help us grow and get everybody's point of view out there. I'm working on several other kind of interesting surveys, which are some topics here. When I asked what we should survey on next, I got a word cloud from people here. But anyway, thank you for listening to the analysis. I hope that you have already subscribed to take surveys. If you haven't, please do that. Do your part and help be a part of these solutions and make things better. That's what it's all about. So thanks again. Talk to you later.